How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Now, I have a special guest today. I have Cookie. A lot of you guys have wanted our opinions on the new Squadrons game. I've been getting tons of questions about what my thoughts are on the new gameplay and stuff, and why haven't I just covered it in general. And that's because I'm not a game changer. I don't get to fly out and play the game early. I don't get exclusive access or whatnot because I give my full opinion. I don't kiss any ass to get to play the game early. So we've done a lot of research. We've watched, the Game Changers videos and stuff, and we're just going to give you our thoughts on Squadrons, the good and the bad, just our overall opinions on the game up to this point. Yeah, Cookie really liked Starfighter Assault. That was probably one of his favorite things in Star Wars Battlefront 2, which a lot of people didn't really like that mode, but Cookie really enjoyed it. I thought it was okay, but now we're getting an entire game based around, Starfighter Assault, kinda, but first person. So let's start off with the good. We'll go over the things that I think is good about the game, and then we'll go over the list of the bad things, but I think there's more leaning towards the bad. We'll get into that.
Spoiler alert, yeah.
So the first thing I want to talk about is I really like the new controls and stuff. I like the fact that you can, divert all the power to the speed, like your boosters, and you can get a speed boost. You can overcharge your blasters, and then you can have a rapid fire, or you could put all your power towards your shields to protect you a little bit more. I really like that concept, and I think that gives you a little bit more control over a ship. It's not just something that a casual player can just hop into and everybody just starts playing it. The new players aren't going to be as good as someone that plays this game for weeks upon weeks. They're going to master their ship controls, and it actually kind of rewards you. The more you play the game, there's a learning curve. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got a definite learning curve to it, which could be really interesting. And it's one thing that kind of hurts some of the gameplay with the game changers and stuff. Obviously, they aren't going to have a whole lot of time to get good at the game or understand all the controls. So some of the gameplay may not look as good, to be honest, or really show all the things you can do in the game. But the customizing of controls, it also gives you the option to play the game the way you want to play the game, and the way you like to fly, whatever advantages you want to give yourself. I'd imagine giving yourself certain advantages gives you disadvantages at the same time, because obviously if you put all the power to your shields, you can't put it somewhere else. So it kind of has an interesting learning curve to it, which I can appreciate them doing that, especially if the whole game is going to be based around this mode. You really need to make it very customizable, more than just cosmetics, customizable to the way that a person wants to play the game. So it's a good touch. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell from the gameplay how well it actually works so far, but I would imagine that would be one of the better things about it as far as the gameplay is concerned, is the customization you can do with how you want to play and how you want to fly.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the game changers all said that they didn't have enough time to really learn the controls, and they were kind of overwhelmed with just how much stuff there was to actually do, because it's definitely not like Starfighter Assault and Battlefront 2. The controls are just completely different, and one of the things that I really like is you can stop your ship completely in midair and hover, and that's something you can't do in Starfighter Assault. I like that you can just sit still. Yeah, maybe you can hide behind some debris and then pop out the last second and flank somebody, or you can just stop and just unload on one of the capital ships. I like the fact that you can stop in midair, and then you can just stop. You can do a complete 180 and go full speed in the opposite direction to lose somebody that's chasing you. There's a lot of really cool maneuvers, but I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing that the controls are pretty complex. I think that's actually a plus.
Well, that was one of the biggest problems with Starfighter Assault. You would get stuck in these non-stop circle battles where neither of you really have an option to get out of it. It's just, there's no extra controls in Starfighter Assault in Battlefront 2 that allows you to do anything different. So yeah, that is a good thing. I just hope it doesn't. I hope that in doing something like the hover, it means you get a disadvantage somewhere else. Because I just feel like that would just get overused if it's just, just the hover is that useful for a person, then people would just keep hovering all the time. So I hope it gives you some sort of disadvantage to go along with it, I guess.
And then the next thing that I put on the good list is that I like that it's lore friendly in terms of customization and stuff. This doesn't really bother you as much as it does me, but I like that there's no just like solid pink neon ship or solid neon green or whatever. Like, they try to have most of the ship customization match actual squadrons that are in Star Wars canon and in lore. So that actually explains as to why some of the ships look different. So if you want to play with your friends and you all want to have the same matching type of ships, then you can pretend that you're part of that squadron that's actually in Star Wars. So I think that that part's pretty neat. And then the next part is the cockpit customization. I really like the fact, like, I'm all for customization in games when you can actually see the customization and you can actually see the inside of your cockpit. So, like, those little bobbleheads, I like the look of the Darth Vader bobblehead, the Ewok bobblehead. There's some, like, different holo figures. Like, you can have those little hologram chess pieces from the Millennium Falcon. You can have those chilling in there with you. Like, there's a bunch of cool little decorations that are chilling in your cockpit. So I think those are pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about customizations and stuff, but that is probably the only customization that I think is good, is the customization of the cockpit, because it's something you see every time you play. It's something that actually looks unique and interesting and kind of cool and kind of its own thing. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that really helps can give a player a feeling of their own personal little space in their starfighter, which really makes it personal to them. I just don't know how. It didn't look like they had a ton of options for the inside of a cockpit yet. They may add more as time goes by, but that's something, if they're going to do a lot with customization, I hope they actually focus even more on the cockpit stuff, because that's I think the customization people are going to get the most out of it as far as the cosmetics are concerned.
And then the final thing I want to talk about on the good side of things, it's kind of going to segue into the bad, is I like that there's no microtransactions. There's just everything can be unlocked in game. All the skins, customization stuff, colors, outfits, everything that is in the game is 100% stuff that you can get just by playing it. You don't have any loot boxes, no pay to win, just absolutely no microtransactions. So obviously that's a plus. That's great. The more you play, the more you get stuff. And then if you see a high level player, they're obviously going to have cooler looking stuff than a low level player. That's how video games should be. But the downside to that is that they said that they're not going to have any, DLC, any live service, nothing. Everything that is in the game, when you buy it for $40, that's all you get. So if they're not going to have any, future content, what's going to keep this game alive? Why are people going to play this, a month down the road, 2 months down the road, a year down the road? Why would anyone play this for more than like a week? Like, once you get everything unlocked, I feel like it's going to get really old if they're not going to keep up support for this game.
The gameplay would have to be amazing. I mean, to keep a game going with absolutely no live service, no DLC, no hope of a future, basically, in the game, the way the video games work nowadays, man, that gameplay better be something else. But honestly, even if the gameplay is something else, I think it's expected in today's video game market that developers keep adding to these games. Otherwise, fans just assume, okay, well, the game's dead. I mean, that's how Battlefront 2, that's kind of the situation that game's in, because the developer said, we're not adding anything anymore, so yeah, the game's pretty much dead. And if Squadrons is just going to be dead on arrival, that doesn't make sense.
Fallen Order got updates and it was single player.
Yeah, I don't know why they'd even come out and say that, like that they're not going to do anything. That just seems like a very poor choice of a PR, but it basically is kind of.
I would imagine if it sold really well, they might do that. They might add some.
But that's also
free
that's
content,
also a
free
reason
updates.
not to say anything, because you don't know. Maybe the game gets really, really good, and there's a lot of love behind it. And you're like, you know what? This is worth us keeping alive. This is worth doing live service and putting a bunch of new cosmetics and DLC into. But I mean, it just sends the message out to gamers like, hey, this game is not something we are really passionate about. We're not really invested in this. So it's a very strange message to send out to people. But Yeah, that doesn't motivate people to buy the game at all.
No, not really. So that kind of segued into the bad things. So first off, that was, that's obviously bad. There's not going to be any future content. But one of the main core things about the game that I don't like is one of the few modes. I think there's only 2 or 3 modes total in this game.
That I don't like on itself, by the way.
Yeah,
there's
that's
only
its
a
own
couple
problem.
of modes to play. Yeah.
But dogfight mode looks boring as hell. It looks just not fun. Both, As a True and Battlefront updates, which are game changers. Keep in mind, they get to play the game early, they get free stuff, they get free trips, they get free all kinds of things from EA, and not even those two were able to say that the mode was fun. So, it must be absolutely just garbage if game changers are saying they didn't have fun playing it. Because As True was complaining about the respawn time. Battlefront update said something about you're flying around and not finding anybody to kill. It's only 5v5. So if you have this massive map and you're flying around space, you die, there's a long respawn timer, which, they can fix the respawn timer closer to launch. But that's not going to fix the problem of you're flying around and there's no AI ships, there's nothing going on, it's just 5 versus 5 in a huge map. There's going to be a lot of downtime where you're just flying around looking for someone. And if, I don't know, let's say the teams are unbalanced and 2 people decide to quit, and then it's 3 versus 5, then it's even harder to find people because it's only 3 opponents. It just sounds boring.
It does sound extremely boring. It also looks extremely boring based on the gameplay that we saw. There's just nothing happening. It's just an empty giant space where you're just hoping you run into another fighter. That's an incredibly bad idea. Even in Battlefront 2 Starfighter thought it was 10v10. That I honestly would be...
And there was AI.
Yeah, and there was AI. So, that could be upped, in my opinion. When they first announced it was going to be 5v5, I thought that sounded horrible unless they constructed it in a certain way. And based on the gameplay of the dogfights, it doesn't look like they constructed it in a way that's going to make that better. Basically, the only way you'd make that better is to force people into a smaller space where they run into each other all the time. And that doesn't look like it's happening at all. Plus, it's a great opportunity for a troll or somebody who plays the crappy way. It's a great opportunity for them to be really, really annoying and just fly off into their own little space and not even be a part of the battle and make it more unfun for other people, which unfortunately there's a lot of people that love to do that. So yeah, it just looks like a very, very, very boring, especially that game mode itself, but even the other game modes, when it's just 5v5, you don't give yourself a lot of options to keep people invested in playing it.
I do like the idea of, you and a couple friends all forming your own squad, people that like to play in clans or hold their own community tournaments and stuff. There's a lot of potential for that. I don't know if there's private matches or not. That's yet to be confirmed. I've not seen anything on that. Probably not. But the fact that you can get your friends together and you can all coordinate and plan your attacks and talk in a party and work together as a team, that part's cool. I like that aspect. But yeah, the 5v5 just isn't going to cut it. That bigger mode, I don't remember what it's called, but the one where you fight, the capital ships and stuff, that looks like there's a lot more going on. It looks a lot more fun and interesting. You have to actually blow up capital ships. It just doesn't feel that alive when there's only 5 people. I don't get why they made it that small.
Yeah, if you were going to do dogfights, I don't understand why you don't add more people to that game mode. Make it so there's 20 fighters, 30 fighters. Make it so there's actually a lot of people in that game mode. Maybe you want the 5v5 just for the, capital ships game mode. That makes some sense. If you want to do the squadron thing where you're with your friends in a squadron, make a game mode specifically for that. Don't just have just a couple of game modes and make them all 5v5. I think there were ways to alleviate this that don't appear to have really been looked at. There is time, but I don't think they're going to change something that big with just a couple of months left before release.
Yeah, well, and then another thing that you don't like, you don't like this more than I don't, but it's the first person. You don't like that at all.
I hate it.
it doesn't bother me as much, but I don't like how it takes up most of the screen. The X-Wing is not as bad, but the TIE Fighter, it's like all of the cockpit stuff takes up half of the screen. So like, how are you supposed to have any idea if you're close to like a wall, a ship, a boulder, a meteor? Like, you're gonna crash into stuff, it feels like, all the time, because half your screen's taken up by stuff.
See, that was the one problem I had with, like, we were talking about the cool customization of the cockpit, and it is cool and it looks cool, but at the same time, I don't really want to just see my cockpit. I want to see everything going on around me, and I know that's not quote-unquote realistic, because obviously if you were actually in the Starfighter, this is what you would see, but I don't really care, because I just want to enjoy the game. I don't care how realistic, I guess it is. I just, when I'm watching them play this game, it just doesn't, it looks very confusing because your field of view is so limited. I know some people really like to play first person, and that's fine, but to not give the option to play any other way, any other kind of point of view, is really kind of disappointing. I really would have wished they would have given people the option to see the outside of their ships while they're fighting, which actually might segue into another problem I know you have with this game, which is you can't see most of your customization. So if you do customize your ship, because you don't have that point of view, you can't see your ship anyway. So that's a whole other problem.
I've been into this argument a few times with people because I don't understand their mindset. They're like, oh, you can see it in the loading screens, you can see it in the hangar and stuff. Like, who cares? What's this, like a dress-up game? Like, it's just a Star Wars themed, like, just game where you dress up your character?
You do realize, based on that argument, if you can see, you know, when you're looking at new skins to buy, you can also see that in the loading screen. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
I can look at
exactly.
I can look at all the skins whenever I want, but I can't see them while I'm fighting. And even if I buy them, I still can't see them while I'm fighting. So what's the difference?
Exactly. I guess it's just the idea of knowing people when they fly by or blow up your ship, they see that you're a different color.
That's another thing. I couldn't see any other person's ship with any kind of detail when I was watching them on the gameplay. And to be honest, that's fair. I mean, you don't, you know, it's not like you're going to be in your ship with tons of time to admire other ships. But if that's the only thing you're buying the customized skins for, I don't know what the point is. I guess I shouldn't keep saying buying because it's not microtransactions, but buying with points. I don't get it. I don't see where you're getting the interest in this, but, you know.
It's not even just that. It goes even further. Like, they've put all this developer time and resources into adding this customization stuff, which is pointless when they could have put more into the gameplay. Like, you can customize your pilot, you can change your helmet, you can change your race and gender, and you can be an alien if you want. Who cares? You don't see them. You see them at the victory pose screen, and then there's this little hub before the pre-match area. You can like check out the hangar, and you can stand there around the war table. And then when you're at the war table, it doesn't let you walk around. You can just look around the room, and you can like point and click, and it teleports you to the next area. So the only time you can like show off your pilot's, you know, skins, and they have emotes in this game, so the only time you can use your emotes is if you and your friends are standing around that war table pre-match, and you can just spam emotes standing there. You can't walk around. You can just look at each other spamming emotes. That's it. That's the only time you get to see each other's outfits and emotes. It's stupid. Why would they even add that? It's just a waste of time. It's so dumb.
I don't know, and they're making it as one of the selling points of the game, and you won't see it almost ever. Now, it would have changed a ton if they would have given different points of view, but they don't. So, since it's all first person, literally that cockpit customization is the only thing you're going to see while you're fighting. So that's the only customization that makes any difference.
Are people that excited over changing the way you look for a victory pose? I mean, come on. That's so stupid.
I mean, you can look at victory poses, you know, in deciding what you're going to buy in the store. It's the same thing. There's no difference.
Have the standards gotten so low with EA that we're excited for emotes that we can spam at the beginning of a match and different victory pose outfits? I mean, it's so
I don't know what they were going
dumb.
for with that.
So the customization in this game is just tacked on. It feels like it's a waste of time. The only good customization that you actually get to see is the cockpit customization. And yeah, honestly, it just feels like I'm torn because I'm excited to test it out. It's a new Star Wars game. I love Star Wars, obviously. I want to play it. I want to see what the hype is about. I want to try everything out. But at the same time, there's no future DLC. It's only $40. The customization's horrible. The dogfight mode, one of the few modes there is, looks boring. So it just feels like a cash grab. It just feels like EA's like, yeah, let's throw this out there. These idiots will buy it, and then next year we'll have another Star Wars game.
Yeah, if they have another Star Wars game next year. I guess they'll have Jedi Fallen Order too, probably. But, yeah, I mean, the gameplay, like, I'm excited to see... I'd be interested to see what the customization, as far as the controls and everything, what that really entails you to do. But I can't say the reticles on aiming and even the fonts that are used look weird and out of place. They don't look like it doesn't flow. Like watching the gameplay, watching them fight, it just looked weird. It didn't look fun. It looked strange and technical. It's kind of a strange thing to explain. It just looked like while you were playing it, it just doesn't look fun. It just looks like it doesn't look like it carries over what was good about Starfighter Assault and why I liked it so much. You know, the feel of it was really, really good, and it made you really feel like you were involved in a lot of action and a lot of fun, and I just don't get that from any of the gameplay I watched of this. And maybe that's because they're not experienced enough and don't get to play with all the new customized controls and stuff, but I don't know. I don't get any impression that this game's fun, to be honest, based on the gameplay I've seen so far. I mean, that's a pretty damning review, but it just doesn't look fun.
That and the views are lower. Like, if you look at all the Game Changers, their views on YouTube, all of their views, for the most part, like for a new Star Wars game, are pretty low. They're only getting like anywhere from 15,000 to upwards of like 50 to 60,000 views. For a brand new video game, brand new exclusive gameplay that no one else has on the website, and it's only getting that little amount of views, that's saying something. It's saying that people aren't excited.
Yeah, it hasn't even really hyped this game up. They just kind of snuck it in there 4 months before release. They're like, hey, this is coming. What? Like, with all the like hype that they draw behind all the rest of their games, this game just kind of sneaks in there. It's a Star Wars game. It should have hype for months and months and months and months and months before release. So you could kind of tell from the beginning something was not quite right about this game, and it's kind of being seen. There are some things you can definitely probably get out of this game, but it's kind of going to be a forgettable experience is what it looks like to me. And also the fact that they're not going to let it like keep going anyway. It's going to be very forgettable. It sounds like the developers have already forgotten about it, so yeah, it's not a good sign.
Especially with all the other games coming out this fall. It's got a lot of competition. Well, that's our thoughts on Star Wars Squadrons so far. Obviously, as more information comes out, I'll probably make more videos regarding the game, and then as the game comes out, I'll probably play it, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on the final product. But, yeah, make sure you guys check out Cookie's channel. I will leave it linked down below, Cookie Vibes. Yeah, that's going to do it for us. And hit that subscribe button if you are new here. Hit that bell for notifications. Be sure to join the channel's Discord and follow me on Twitch at SwanyPlaysGames Live. And I will talk to you all in the next video. So, goodbye.
We would be honored if you would join us. You cannot resist